So today's topic is the relation between average cost and marginal cost curves. So we shall see the relation that occurs between the average cost curves and the marginal cost curves. So we have explained in the previous classes the concept of average and then marginal cost curves. And again, there is an important relation between the two, which is explained. We shall explain here. So the relation that occurs between marginal cost and average cost is the same as that between any other marginal average quantities. So marginal means the additional. Average cost. So you know what is average. You know how to find out the average. And so what is the basic relation that both of these curves has? So by looking at this, sentence, you will be clear the relation that occurs between average cost and the marginal cost curves. So the first relation that they have is when marginal cost, when MC is less than average cost. So when marginal cost is less than average cost, what will happen? Average cost will fall. And the next thing is when marginal cost is greater than, here it is greater than the average cost, what will happen again? In this case, the average cost will rise. But when marginal cost is less than average cost, the average cost falls. And when marginal cost is greater than the average cost, the average cost rises. So you can understand this with this simple identity. So I have made it simple for you. So when MC marginal cost is less than average cost, then the average cost falls. And again, when marginal cost is greater than average cost, the average cost rises. So you will be made clear when you explain diagrammatically and also with some of the mathematical example. But that is the basic relation that they have between average cost curves and the marginal cost curves. So you all know what is a game of cricket. So suppose a cricketer, a cricket player, let us say betting's average is 50. So his average is 50. So a cricket player's average betting is 50. So 50 is his average. So what happens is, if in his next innings is the bowling, or whatever you call it, if in the next innings, if he scores less than 50, so in the next inning, if he scores less than 50, what will happen to his average? So less than 50, let us say 45. So what will happen to his average? His average will fall because, the next inning or the addition that he gets is less than his average. That is why, his average will also fall. If the addition to his, if the addition to his, point is less than his average, say 45, then his average will be affected and it will be less than his average. Why is it like that? What is the reason behind this? It is nothing but it is because, his marginal score or the additional score is less than his average score. That is why, when his additional score is less than his average, his average will also fall. So that is the first relation that we have just discussed. If the, marginal cost is less than the average cost, then obviously this average cost has to fall. So here his marginal cost. So this F45 is the marginal cost and average cost is 50 here. So since the marginal cost MC is less than the average cost, then this average cost has to fall. So that is the first case. So on the other hand, so here average cost is 50. So on the other hand, if the cricket player scores is, higher than the average score, or let us say if the cricket player marginal cost is, greater than 50, let us say 55, then his average cost will rise. His average cost will be greater than 50 because the marginal cost here, the additional score in his next innings is greater than 50. That is why his average cost will also rise. So in the next identity we have discussed that if marginal cost is greater than average cost, so marginal cost is greater than 50, say 55. So 50 is the average cost, and if marginal cost is greater than average cost, then the average cost will rise. So that is the second relation that they have between average cost and the marginal cost. What happens when, the average cost and the marginal cost is same? So when MC is equals to average cost, or when marginal cost is equal to average cost, say 50-50, the average cost will remain the same. So when marginal cost is equal to average cost, then average cost will remain the same. There will be no rise, there will be no fall in the average cost, but it will remain the same when marginal cost is equal to average cost. So again, likewise, let us take the situation of a producer. A producer is producing a number of units of a product and his average cost is rupees 20. So a producer is producing a certain product and his average cost is rupees 20. So that is his average cost. Now, if he produce 1 unit more, so additional unit he wants to produce, and his average cost falls. 1 additional unit leads to average cost to fall. So by adding 1 additional unit of product, let us say the producer is having a situation of his average cost began to fall. So why is the reason? What is the reason behind this? It means that, the additional unit must have cost him less than rupees 20. So the additional unit must have cost him less than rupees 20, say rupees 15. So the cost which is incurred in producing an additional unit must have cost him less than his average cost. That is why we have a situation of average cost falling when additional unit is added to the product. And on the other hand, if a producer, while producing 1 additional unit, causes his average cost to rise. So we have seen the case of fall of average cost. Now, if a producer having his average cost rupees 20 earlier, and by producing 1 additional unit of product, which leads to average cost to rise. So which means that, the amount of money that a producer incurred in producing the additional unit is greater than rupees 20. Let us say 25. So here the additional amount of rupees that he incurred is greater than the average cost. That is why the average cost rises when extra or one additional unit of output is produced. So don't get confused here. So his producer's average cost is constant at rupees 20. And when he produced one additional unit, his average cost falls, which means that the money that is incurred in producing one additional unit is less than rupees 20, which means that the marginal cost here is less than rupees 20, say 15, rupees 15. That is why his average cost falls. And in this case, opposite with this, when his average cost was 20 rupees 20, and when additional unit is produced, his average cost increases or rises, which means that the marginal cost or the additional cost which he incurred in producing one additional unit of product is greater than 20, let us say rupees 25. That is why his average cost rises when one additional unit of product is produced. And the same will go when average cost is equal to marginal cost. Let us say rupees 20, and here also rupees 20, and then his average cost will remain the same. So that is some of the examples explaining the relation that happens between marginal cost and average cost. So the relation between average cost and marginal cost can be easily remembered or understood with the help of this figure 4. So this figure is usually used to explain the relation, which will help you to remember easily the relation between average cost and the marginal cost. So look at the figure number 4. So in this figure 4, when marginal cost is above average cost, so this one, 1, 2, 3. So let us take this first case. So in this first case, this marginal cost is above average cost. So first case that we have is when marginal cost is above this average cost. What will happen? The average cost rises. So here the average cost is rising. It is rising, the average cost. When marginal cost is above this, so this is the horizontal line. So when this marginal cost is above average cost, we see that average cost rises. Or this AC is rising upward towards MC. That is first case. On the other hand, if marginal cost is below average cost, so this MC is below, average cost now. What will happen to average cost? Average cost falls down. So average cost falls. Before it was rising when MC was above AC. But now when MC is below AC, then average cost falls. That is depicted in this figure number 4. Thirdly, when marginal cost stands equal to average cost. So AC equals to MC. They are in the horizontal line. When that happens, what will happen? The average cost also remains the same. There is no fall, there is no rise, there is no downward fall, there is no upward rises. But AC will be equal to MC when MC is equals to AC. The marginal cost pulls the average cost horizontally. So it is pulling horizontally, but in this case, the marginal cost is pulling the average cost upward. And in this case, the marginal cost is pulling downward the average cost. So that is again the relation which is explained through the help of this diagram. Let me explain again. First case, when marginal cost is above average cost, then what will happen? Average cost rises upward. Second case, when marginal cost is below average cost, then marginal cost will pull the average cost downward and average cost falls downward. And in the third case, when MC is equal to AC, then this MC will pull horizontally the average cost. That is why average cost will remain the same. So that is another illustration of the relation between average cost and marginal cost curve with the help of this figure number 4. So again, we shall explain the relationship with the help of this diagram, that is figure number 5, explaining the relation between average cost and the marginal cost curves. So on the x-axis, we are measuring the output, the level of output that is produced, and on the y-axis, we are measuring average cost and marginal cost curves, marginal cost, and O is the origin. And here this is the average cost and the dotted line is the marginal cost. So let us analyze this diagram looking at the relation that occurs or exists between these two cost curves. So this figure 5, we have drawn the average cost curve AC and marginal cost curve MC. So as long as the marginal cost curve lies below short run average cost curve. So as long as this marginal cost is lying below this average cost, what will happen? What did you see here? The MC is rising. Okay, sorry. So as I have said, let me correct myself. As long as this MC curve is below average cost curve, what we see is the average cost is falling. So as long as marginal cost is lying below this average cost curve, then the average cost curve is falling. So till at point L, average cost is falling because the marginal cost is lying below this average cost curve. Let me explain again. As long as this marginal cost is lying below average cost curve, then the average cost is falling till at this point L. So that is the first point, when MC is lying below average cost. So what will happen when the next case is when MC curve is lying above average cost curves? Say from point L, this MC curve is lying above AC curve. What will happen to average cost? Average cost curve begin to rise. When MC is above the average cost curve, this average cost curve begin to rise. So the second case is when MC is above or lying above this average cost curve, the average cost curve begin to rise. As you can see from point L, it has begun to rise because this MC is lying above the average cost curve. And at point L, MC equals to AC because that is the intersection point of the MC and the AC curve. So at point L, MC and AC are both equal and average cost is equal to marginal cost at point L. So what is this? What is the speciality at point L? So at this point L, average cost curve is neither falling nor rising, but you will see that it has ceased to fall at this point L. So it follows from this point L that, point L is the minimum point of average cost, or the SC curve cuts the MC curve. I'm saying the MC curve cuts the average cost curve at the minimum point of average cost curve. Let me repeat again. At point L, average cost is neither rising nor falling, which means that it has ceased to fall. And at point L, the intersection point MC equals to AC, which means that the MC curve cuts the average cost curve at the minimum of average cost, that is at point L, which is the minimum point of average cost. But you have to keep in mind this, that we cannot generalize the direction in which the marginal cost is moving from the way the average cost is changing. So in simple words, when average cost is falling, we cannot say that marginal cost will be falling too. So when average cost is falling, we cannot simply generalize that this MC curve will also fall. And when average cost is falling, what we can say definitely is only that, the marginal cost will be below the average cost. So we can definitely say that, the marginal cost will be below it, or will be below the average cost when average cost is falling. That we can say, but we cannot say the direction of the marginal